I'm Diego Sanchez, and this is 10 Minute Talks. My guest today is a special guest, Brooklee Han, real estate reporter for HousingWire. Brooklee, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to have this conversation, and it'll be a little bit different from my usual conversations because we're going to go origin story here. We actually, we hired you, not typical hire for HousingWire in terms of our newsroom. You did not have a reporting background when you came to us. What was your background before joining HousingWire?
Absolutely. So, my kind of career before entering into the journalism space more formally here at HousingWire was as an Olympic figure skater. So, I represented Australia for 9 seasons internationally from 2010 until 2019, competing starting at the junior level internationally. I competed at three junior world championships, three senior world championships, seven Four Continents championships, and the 2014 Winter Olympics. So yeah, that was kind of my life before really entering the journalism world here at HousingWire.
And what led you from Olympic level figure skating to reporting in the housing industry?
So with skating, one of my favorite parts of the entire experience as an athlete was the ability to tell a story through my programs and my performances. And of course, there were things in those programs that were required by the rules that I had to have in them. But I just loved the ability to kind of mesh that technical aspect with the storytelling aspect. And as a child growing up, I had loved writing. I started my university career at Wesleyan University in Connecticut, and ended up taking some creative nonfiction writing classes. And I fell back in love with writing, which is something that I had struggled with a little bit in high school, because high school English is very different than kind of the world of journalism or writing creative nonfiction or something like that. Again, kind of was that interest in writing, in journalism, in reporting, and storytelling was reignited when I was at Wesleyan. And I kind of dove a little bit more into journalism and kind of found that a similar balance with my skating in terms of that, the technical aspect and the storytelling aspect in journalism, with having, information that I need to convey to my readers and facts that I need to convey, but trying to find a way to do it artfully in a way that is engaging for the reader. And I ended up interning at a couple different places kind of over the course of my college career, doing a lot of freelance writing for different publications, some in the figure skating community or in the broader sports world, as well as places like D Magazine, which I had a bit of a sports focus with there as well. And yeah, was ended up looking for a more full-time gig after graduating and finishing my degree, and ended up here in the housing industry.
One of the things that I have noticed about your kind of daily grind is that you are a grinder. Like you get up early, you work hard, you work late, and it seems to help when it comes to reporting. What other aspects of kind of your training background have helped when it comes to being a really good real estate reporter?
Absolutely. So when I entered into the real estate space, I really knew nothing about the housing industry. I think my second day here, there was some news in the title insurance space, and our managing editor, James, was like, do you know what title insurance is? And I was like, I have no clue, and have since, learned so much about title insurance, and have kind of really had the opportunity to dive into that industry as well. But just being an athlete, obviously the hard work aspect of it and being able to focus and work those long hours definitely helps. I was always learning things every day, whether it was about myself, whether it was about technique, whether it was figuring out how to make and jump better, a spin better, how to approach competition in a better way for myself. And that learning something new every day, I think, is something that really carries over into the journalism world. And something I also really love about journalism is this ability to always learn something and dive into a new industry or a new topic, and really learn so much about it. I'm naturally a curious person, and so having the chance to do that in a structured way, as my job every day is just so much fun.
And it comes through in your reporting, and as you dive deeper into a topic, it's very clear that you're curious and are chasing after that next bit of knowledge for that story. And one of the areas that I think that's come through is with the commission lawsuits and the NAR settlement. You've been so on top of that storyline. Tell me about your experience covering that story over the past year or so, and what it's been like to, break some stories, write features, and just really be on top of something that has consumed the industry for the last several months.
This story honestly started kind of before I even was, came to HousingWire. So, at first it kind of felt like I was playing catch up a little bit, trying to really truly understand not only the industry, but the background that kind of set everything up for where we are today, or where we were like last October when the Sitzer Burnett suit went to trial. It definitely is stressful covering these stories a little bit, especially because we do want to break news. We do want to be on top. But, also wanting to be accurate and make sure that I have all the facts straight before, we go to publish. So it's a lot of, stalking LexisNexis at all hours of the day. And, trying to stay on top of things as best as possible with that. Chatting with a lot of people in the industry, hearing what they're hearing, trying to understand how they're interpreting different things that have happened, to see if that kind of lines up with how I am interpreting things as well. And also, where people are maybe lacking an understanding or lacking some clarity, so I can dive into different areas and really kind of go further into, the settlement or the lawsuit or something that was brought up in court or something that, that was brought up on Twitter or some random podcast about kind of in relation to the settlement or to the lawsuits, to really help broaden this understanding base for the industry and also for myself. I never expected to know so much about, certain types of law and the legal system. So that's been a lot of fun and, a great way for me to kind of really deepen my knowledge and ability to report on, just courtroom proceedings and court dockets in general, which I know will, translate over, I'm sure, into some other storyline that consumes the industry at some point. But, yeah, it's definitely been an experience for sure. I think obviously we were living history every day, but I feel like right now in the housing industry, this is going to be an era that we, frequently look back upon, and to be on the front lines of it and to be covering it is just, it's a privilege and very exciting, but also a responsibility that I don't take lightly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is a very key time in the history of real estate. What do you think brokers, team leaders, and agents should be paying close attention to right now as the NAR settlement is really being put into effect by a lot of brokerages?
I think a lot of it has to do with, how they're interacting with clients, and how they're interacting with, former clients as well, who have probably seen some stuff on the news or read something online and have a lot of questions, and just making sure that they are the source of information for their clients about all of this, and not, kind of gatekeeping certain pieces of information, being very clear with what has gone on, what's happening, what the future may look like. Obviously, it is very uncertain for everyone, and be clear about that, we don't know exactly what the best practices will be moving forward. These are, the policies that my brokerage or that I as an agent are, looking to implement. And, these are the policies that are mandated by the terms of the National Association of Realtors settlement that, we need to have in place. Such as, buyer representation agreements, having those open and honest discussions and being, upfront and frank with clients, I think is really important. And just, I think this is a time in the industry. Obviously, there's always a lot of competition in the real estate space, among industry players, but I think this is a time where everyone kind of needs to come together and talk about what they're doing, what they're implementing, so people can learn from each other, because that's the only way I think that we're going to be able to successfully and at least a decent pace navigate all of these changes, and hopefully have there will be disruption, obviously, but the disruption hopefully won't last as long if everyone can kind of work together and figure out how we're going to navigate all of this.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So we've got the Summer Olympics starting very, very soon. We know what your favorite winter sport is, but is there a summer sport that you follow and are really excited about at these Summer Olympics?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents were both in the horse world. My mom worked for Tad Coffin, who was the 1976 Olympic champion in the equestrian sport of eventing, and my dad was a junior young rider champion of Australia. So, of course, in my house, equestrian sports are really big. And, my parents over the years have known several people who have both, ridden for both Australia and the US. And so I always love following those. I'm a big gymnastics fan, because it's so similar to figure skating. So definitely following that. I have some friends that work for USA Basketball, so it's not always the sport that I've paid a lot of attention to, but definitely following that. And one story that's close to me is that when I was at D Magazine as an intern, I was asked to freelance some stories for online. We were approaching the Summer Olympics that had been postponed. It was 2021, and they were looking for up and coming Dallas-based athletes, or native Dallas area athletes to highlight. And I kind of stumbled upon Sha'Carri Richardson, who at that point in time had a bit of a name in Texas, but not that much, and was not known on a national scale, kind of outside of the track and field world. And so I got to do a profile on her kind of back before she was truly the name that she is today. And so really it's been so much fun kind of following her story over the past 3-4 years, and excited to see what she does on the track in Paris.
Brooklee, it's been great to catch up.
Thank you so much for having me.